Statistical Edge can drastically improve your trading in 2025. It can improve your win rate, your stop loss, and your overall profit factor. But what I've continued to notice from people trying to start to apply Statistical Edge in their trading is they are just using a base stat and they are not considering the other side of the stat. Some of these stats you look at might have a 70% hit rate, a 80% hit rate, and we aren't focusing on that 20 to 30% probability that that trade doesn't go in our favor. We are looking for it to always go in our favor. So I wanted to make a video breaking down when to properly use these stats and how to apply context from the market, from other things inside of the market to tell you when to use the stat. It's something that I've seen within my students where they take a stat, they start to apply it, and they're struggling with it, when someone else might be using that same stat and they're seeing success with it. What's the difference between trader A and trader B? The one succeeding and the one failing. The difference is how they are contextualizing the market and applying the stat to their trades. This is something that I've personally made my own mistakes with, where I'll just use a baseline stat and I'm not properly identifying the context of the market and how to actually use that stat in my trading. Now I'm going to get into the charts. I'm going to go over some tools you can use to add additional context into your trading and utilizing those stats to give you higher RRs, specific stop losses, that sort of thing, and how to properly identify the context and what the market is telling you. Now I'm going to be using gold as my example. I've been trading gold recently the past 2 or 3 weeks. I've been finding a lot of success with some specific stats and how I've been able to apply them into my trading. And I'm just going to break down each of my indicators really quick here. So I just have a sessions indicator. This is going to be for Asia, it's from 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. For London, it's from 3 a.m. till 11 a.m. 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. And New York, it is 9:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so baseline indicators. The other indicator I have on here, I have the volume down at the bottom. This is just overall total volume. And then I have a anchored VWAP. This is anchored at 6 p.m. on the day open, the new day open. And then I'm also going to be using a fixed range volume profile in here. Okay. So what do we have coming into Friday? Well, we have this New York area, pretty big expansion down. We have Asia, pretty large range for Asia, and a tight London range. So this is looking like a balanced price range to me. If I apply my volume profile, I can do this from the end of New York going into London, or I can pull this from Asia into London. I have my value area high and my value area low marked out here. I also have the developing value areas on here. So if I'm looking at London, maybe I wake up at 6:30, somewhere in there, start checking charts. There's a couple things I want to note here. So if I am looking at this, we are right at the value area high. That makes sense because this is the only price action we're considering. We're right at the highs, value area highs up here. So what I am going to do is I'm going to also take this volume profile from New York where we have a larger range. Oh, we're still at the same value area high. It has shifted down from all the way up here to at 3,900 down to 3,890. So we were right at the value area high. During London, we were bouncing between value area high and the POC. So that's the first thing I'm going to notice. The next thing I'm going to look at is my VWAP. Where's my VWAP at? So we are currently above our VWAP. We're right at the standard deviation 1 of the VWAP. It's the upper band. If you're looking to add that in, just go in, apply it lower band, upper band 1, and I just use the band multiplier 1. I turn off the background so it doesn't get too messy. But baseline, we are currently at the upper band. We're at value area high. We are sitting above VWAP. Now I'm going to get into the stats side. So I have this specific stat pulled for GC. This is going to be the first 15 minutes of London session, 3 a.m. to 3:15 a.m. There's going to be a high and a low set. From 3 a.m. to 11 a.m., there is a 77.5% chance of a double break. What does that mean? The high will break and the low will break between 3 and 11 a.m. I also have this other stat, 3 a.m. to 9 a.m., same exact thing. The percentage is a little bit lower. So this stat to me is valid till 11 a.m. But going into 9 a.m., it still has a pretty high probability. So what I'm going to look for here is going to be my high and my low. I'm going to mark out that. That's our low of our first 15 minutes. And our high. Our high was broken. So if I want to take a quick scalp trade, right? Maybe I missed my entry up here at this value area high. That's fine. I can still look to trade down towards this London low here, right? If I'm just looking for a quick scalp, I would probably just set this up like this. This isn't the best RR. It's a pretty tight scalp, pretty tight stop. But I can look for this London low to break because it has a 77% chance. Now, when we get down here, okay, what is another stat that I like to pull? I like to pull the true day retracement. That's going to be midnight New York. So if I go back to my board and I'm looking for my true day retracement on Friday, when we open above true day in London session from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m., there's a 68% chance we retrace down to that level. So great. I have a 70% chance if I just take the short. From here to hit this level. Incorrect. Okay, let's look at the context behind this. As this price comes down, where do we come down to? We come down to VWAP. We are right at POC as well. So when I'm looking at this, we just took our London trade, our London low sweep trade. And I've taken trades where I'm looking for that London high to sweep as well. But we just took that trade down to the London low, quick little scalp. If I am looking here, what do I see? We're right at POC, we're right at VWAP. I need to see what the reaction is at this POC and VWAP. Immediately, we have strong buyers stepping in, and I can confirm this with order flow. We get up to this upper band, we start to reject, and I'm going to drag out this profile as we go along. I don't think anything will change that much. Okay, we're starting to reject at that upper band. Now, this has told me, even when we don't come down and retest this area, this has told me that there are buyers interested in the market. They're holding above POC, they're holding above VWAP, and I was watching the order flow here. There's nothing really indicating that sellers want to come into this market and push this down to this true day. Some people probably tried to trade down towards this true day if you were using that stat, but the context of the market is we are above POC for this larger range from previous day New York session. We bounced out of VWAP. I want to see if this pushes value area high and if it gets above it. If this gets and sustains above the value area high, I'm expecting an expansion move. This is my context of the situation. I'm looking for the reaction at these key levels. I'm looking to see what is price action doing. I'm not just trading towards true day because I have a 68% chance of that hitting. If I'm looking at this here, what do I notice on this side? There is a giant volume channel in here. If I expand this out and I include more of the price action, I'm going to anchor this at Sunday open just so we have the full week's range. Now that I have this volume profile anchored out, what do I see? Okay, our POC is right where our value area high is from that other range. This volume channel that I was seeing on this other volume profile does not exist. It is an area of high volume. I want to see if price holds above this POC. So it held above this previous POC, held at VWAP. It's pushing above that previous value area high on this smaller time frame. On the larger time frame, the next level I want to gauge interest at is this value area high. And this isn't necessarily me taking a trade off this. If I'm using my statistics, there's not really a trade to be had yet. Okay. So we push above that value area high. Do we get acceptance above it? Not really. We push above and then we come back down. The next thing I'm going to look at as we're coming into the New York session, maybe I traded this leg, maybe I didn't, is I'm going to look for a lower time frame POC. I'm also going to consider this POC as a support area. So if I'm looking at this, we have London highs and Asia highs stacked right next to each other. And I'm going to look at a lower time frame, volume profile, and I'm going to clear this previous one. I'm just going to keep it in my head that the POC is at this level. I can mark it out on my chart, do a number of different things. It could shift down to this level as well. I can see it shifting down to this level because you have a high area of volume in this level. So I want to consider these two levels as significant, this 90 and this 96, because that's where your highest volume is traded at. Oh, what are we doing? We're tapping right into that 96 level. I'm going to gauge the reaction. I can use my order flow tool to get an additional confirmation on that. And when I'm looking at this, okay, we're above the value area high of the range. So if we come back down into that area, what do I want to see? We're back at the value area high. Do buyers support in this area? We're back at that POC of that previous range. If they support in this area, okay, you get strong buyers come in. I can take this trade as this candle starts to reverse. It's a little bit riskier of a trade. I can also take it after it closes. I can take it on a retest. There's a number of different ways I can take this trade. But from my contextual standpoint, we're above the value area high. Looks like buyers are coming in right at that POC. We've tried to push above that value area high from the larger profile, and we got above it, but we stalled out. The other thing I'm going to look at is what time are we at? We're at 10:15. So the next stat I'm going to pull is this initial balance breakout. This is just a standard IV. Actually, this is the orb. Let me find the initial balance breakout. This is just a standard IV. Okay, 60-minute, 9:30 to 4 p.m. The rejection stats on this are bad. What is a rejection stat? That's going to tell you if the high sets first and the low sets second, which side will break, which one is more likely. The rejection stats on GC are bad. They are better on NASDAQ, so I don't know which side is going to break first. But when I apply my context, into here, I would lean bullish on this. We had a clean expansion in the pre-market session. And if I'm looking at this is also isn't pre-market for gold. Gold opens up at 820. If I'm looking at this, I have a fib level sitting right where? Right at that value area high. So I've got my London highs in here. I've got my value area high. I also have my fib. I like to use fibs. Some people don't. If I take this trade off that candle close, I'm risking 7.8 points. That's quite a bit. But my RR is reasonable. It's 2.5, 2.3, something along those lines. I can take this trade where I'm just risking the IV low as this continues to play out. I could also get in on this retest. This comes back in to that POC, retests it, and then, or sorry, that value area high, retests it, and then starts to push out. I can take the trade there, or I can take it earlier if I'm willing to look for a better trade location and have more risk on the table. If I'm trying to buy this, I'm probably buying this as this candle's starting to flip to green or start to print green. I'm looking at the order flow as that's going on to give me that additional confirmation. So my trade location would probably be better on this in a live scenario, but not necessarily guaranteed. And this starts to run up towards the IB high, and it hits that IB high. So what I'm looking for is just that IB high to hit. My stop is at the IB low. My context provides me the right direction to take the trade in. If I want to tighten my stop, I can tighten it up here. I can tighten up here. But I would wait to tighten my stop until I see the strong expansion move out of this consolidation area. And another thing I'm doing is I'm not looking for extensions on this. Why am I not looking for extensions on this? When my IB size is greater than 0.9%, we have a very low probability to hit these extension levels on GC. Now, if I'm also considering the first break, so that previous data that we were just looking at, that is all breaks. Price can go above the IB high, come back in, and then hit the extension. On the first break, it breaks out through the IB, and then it hits that extension level next. So if I'm looking at first breaks, this data is going to be terrible. I've already looked at it. It is abysmal. It's something where if you are looking for this 0.1 to hit, even just the 0.1 extension, you are going to probably lose that trade because you won't adjust your stop. You won't have the proper risk management to do so. And you're going to look for this extension level just because you have a 77% chance of hitting it. On the first break, there is a 30% chance of hitting this. And if I want to be in and out of my trade, sorry, I keep messing up, switching between tabs. If I want to be in and out on that, it's a pretty clean trade to take. Doesn't take too long to play out. I like to hold my trades anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours, somewhere in that time frame. Does this ever hit the extension level? No, it does not, even though we have a 77% chance to hit it. So I want to just take it off that at that first break. So this is one of the stats. Another stat I like to look at is, moving my board around, is going to be New York and next day Asia. So what does this stat tell me? It is telling me on the New York session from Thursday, we have a 71% chance in Asia to sweep the high or low. Now, if I'm looking at Friday night or Thursday night, if I'm looking at Thursday night session, and I'm just looking at this from a range perspective, not even applying volume profiles and all of that, we have a ginormous range of the New York session. This is going to be 80 points. 80 points. And Asia session, where do we open up? We open up right in the middle of the range. If I use my fib tool, where are we at? Oh, we're right at the 50% level. So, do I think Asia's going to sweep the high? No. Do I think Asia's going to sweep the low? Probably not. So, I need to utilize the 20% chance, right? This 21% chance. I need to think about this when I am applying the stat. Without the proper context, this stat is meaningless. If you are not able to properly frame the trade, you're not able to properly apply context into the market, that stat is going to be meaningless. There's no point in using it because it might even decrease your RR. It might decrease your percent win rate because you're not properly applying it. Now, if I'm looking at this session for that Asia stat, what do I see here? Okay, we're lagging out at the highs. This looks like it's just going to continue to grind lower. Here, I can properly apply the stat. If I go back in my replay mode, what would I like to look for here? I want to look for this New York low to sweep in Asia from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., somewhere in that time frame. So we start out, we just immediately gap down. If I'm looking at my fib from my New York range, I'm going to have a 0.5 tap. This taps the 0.5, starts to sell off more. I would actually probably take this pivot point in here. So this to me is more like a 382. And you could even take the London high as well. It really depends how you want to take your fib. If you want to do really low time frame, you could do it like this. But then you can't consider that previous low. So if I'm looking at trading this in Asia, where do we come up to? Come back up to the 0.5 of this range. And we push above that upper band of VWAP, start to fail. We come in, we do a retest, fail again, and then we head down towards that New York low. So this is an area where I could use my stat. I'm already seeing rejection right off the bat. Come up, give us that retest, it pushes above the upper band, there's no acceptance there. I can take it here, it's a riskier trade, or I can wait for it to come back up and retest. I can take the trade here. This is a much lower risk trade. If I'm looking at this, or not much lower risk, but it's you're trading it off an area that's already been rejected from, so you might have more confidence in the trade there. This could be a 2.5 to 1, 2.67 to 1. That's a clean little scalp. 8 points on gold is decent. That's $800 on a single mini. So if you're using 5 micros, that's what, 400 bucks. This is where I want to use the stat, sweeps out that low. And then once this gets above that upper band, pushes through VWAP, comes down, retests that VWAP, and pushes higher. What do I want to see after that? Where is my analysis? I could see this upper band holding and us pushing higher. I could also see, if I'm looking at a volume profile, I can take it here. I can take it at the previous New York range. If I want to see higher prices, I would need this value area low to hold. and I need us to get above this POC, this value area high. If I want to look at a larger range, take this from London. Okay, this value area low needs to hold. We need to get above that POC to push higher. We come up. This looks like it is failing to get acceptance above. Now you tap VWAP again. Okay, it's starting to push those highs, and then you get that clean breakout. So now what if I'm a London trader, Baron? What stats can I use? You can use a similar stat to the one I just showed. This is going to be Asia and London. So London will typically sweep one side of Asia. The definition of this is from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. and London from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. So you have time constraints in there. Now, if I go back to my charts, if I speed through Asia, and we'll get into London here shortly. Okay, if I'm looking at this, right, we are right at 220. I'm not sure if Edgeful counts this as a sweep of Asia. I don't think it does, because the time constraints are from 2 a.m. Like there's a gap between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. I'm just not entirely sure on that one. But here, if I'm looking here, what do I notice? Okay, we come down to VWAP again. We bounce here once, we bounce here twice. Just because this doesn't tap VWAP doesn't mean it's not supporting at that VWAP level. So I can look to take this trade up towards those Asia highs. As London is opening up, I can also use a London orb, a London IB. There's a bunch of different things you can do with London. But if I'm looking to trade this again, right, it comes back down to VWAP again, and it bounces. Again, you can take multiple different trades off this. If I'm looking at here, if I am using that London IB, I can look right here and I can formulate the trade as I'm going to take a long in this direction, looking for this low to hold because we've bounced off VWAP multiple times here. And I could just look for these London highs. I could use extensions on this. There is another stat in London here. We have 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. as the IB, 76% single break chance. So if we do come down to the stop loss, my trade idea is invalidated anyway. If we start to see bullish momentum pick up again, right, this trade starts to look good. Where is my TP at? This, I just put it on the chart. I didn't really pick a specific level. You could pick 3,900. It's a big psych level. We've rejected here previously. We've rejected here once, twice already. So I could take it off at that when it's approaching that 3,900 level. I could also look to use a extension level. So let me pull up my London session here. And this is going to pull 5 years of data. I'm just going to pull 2 years just so it loads faster. And I'm going to look at 1 hour breakout days by wick. And I think this is pulling first breaks. Yeah, this is pulling first breaks. So on the first break of the IB, I can expect the 0.1 65% of the time. That's not a very good stat. If I'm looking at all breaks where this might dip back down into the IB before pushing higher, there's higher probability here. I can even go in and check the size of London session of the IB. So that first hour price action. Once we've broken this high, this low should not break. That stat is 13% of the time you get double breaks in there till 7 a.m. So I now have a 13% chance of getting stopped out. That doesn't apply size into the factor, so you have to think about that. But if I'm looking here, my size is 0.32. Go back to Edgeful, and I apply 0.2 to 0.39. And if I look, I can reasonably look for the 0.1, the 0.2, the 0.3. Past that, your edge starts to drop off. So I would look at the 0.3 on this as a potential TP. If I have multiple contracts, if I'm using micros, I would use, I would start to scale at these highs, at that psych level, at this 0.2, and my TP is actually right at the 0.3. So, you know, you can have multiple TPs in here. You can just take it off at the highs. You're just looking for the first break. You can take it off at that 0.1 if you want to. You can look for that 0.2 as the next level, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. You can scale it a bunch of different ways. Depends on you as the trader to decide what you want to do. That hits the 0.3, and then Do we continue higher? We do. We continue to push those extension levels, and it looks like we are pushing higher, higher, higher. We accepted that 3,900 level as support, and we'll see if we get continuation off that. Do we? We do. Now, in the examples I've shown you, this is backtesting. I already know what's going to happen, so applying this to a live market is slightly different. But I just wanted to make this video to get you guys to think about, when you are using these stats, are you properly applying the context? If you guys want more videos like this, let me know in the comments down below. If you are looking to get a Edgeful subscription, there will be a link for that down below as well. I think it's a great platform. I can break down how I've set up individualized sessions, what stats I personally like to use. I've got all these different custom sessions in here because I make systems for myself and my students. But let me know what you guys think down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.